I thought I was getting a great deal: 40 acres, a 19th century farmhouse, and an untouched barn for just $42,000. But the listing came with something far more chilling than bad plumbing. A handwritten note taped to the front door read, "There are 8 rules. Break one and you die screaming." I laughed at first. I don't laugh anymore. Asterisk, when I saw the listing, it felt like fate. A sprawling piece of countryside land in rural Montana, miles from the nearest neighbor, priced like it was cursed. Because, as I would soon find out, I'd spent years trying to escape the noise of the city, the constant honking, the people crammed like cattle, and the pressure of pretending everything was okay. After a particularly nasty divorce and a mental breakdown that cost me my job in Denver, I wanted something quiet, something that didn't judge me. So when I found the listing online, historic 1800s farmhouse, sold as is, serious buyers only, I messaged the seller instantly. No inspections. No photos of the inside. Just a single image of a time-worn farmhouse sitting crooked on a prairie, with paint peeling like sunburnt skin. The seller's reply was strange: cash only. You move in within 72 hours. Sign paperwork at pickup. Don't contact me afterward. That's rule number 1. Rule number 1. I assumed it was some legal formality. Maybe the guy was just a recluse that I should have taken the hint. But the price tag? $42,000 for house and land. It was too good to pass up. That arrival I drove for 13 hours straight in my rusted-out Subaru. The road getting narrower the deeper into the countryside I went. Cell signal dropped to 0. Trees thinned into wind-bent grass. And then I saw it. The farmhouse.it stood like a corpse dressed in Sunday clothes. 2 stories. Boarded-up windows. A warped roof that caved slightly on the right side. The barn behind it leaned like it was whispering something to the wind. I parked and approached the porch, boots crunching on gravel. There, nailed to the front door, was a weather-stained envelope sealed with red wax. No name, no address, just 3 words, handwritten in jet black ink: read before entering. The rules, written in shaky handwriting: do not contact the previous owner. You bought this place. It's yours now. Enter the house before sunset. If the door is locked, knock 3 times and wait 10 seconds. You must greet the house. Say, "I acknowledge you," loudly. Do not look directly into any mirrors between 2 a.m. and 3:33 a.m. Cover them if needed. The barn is off limits after nightfall. Lock it. Burn sage if you hear whispering. Leave a bowl of milk on the windowsill every Friday at dusk. If it's gone by morning, say thank you aloud. If the basement door is open by itself, shut it. Do not investigate. Do not go down. No matter what happens, do not leave the farmhouse between 12 a.m. and 4 a.m. You're safer inside. You must follow all rules. Break one, and you'll find out what still lives here. I read them twice. Then a third time. At first, I laughed nervously. Maybe this was some eccentric seller's idea of a joke. But something in the air shifted. As I pulled the door open, the hinges groaned like they hadn't moved in decades. And as I stepped inside, the temperature dropped 10 degrees instantly. I stood in the foyer, heart pounding, staring into the pitch-black interior. Then I remembered. Rule 3. You must greet the house. Say, "I acknowledge you," loudly. I swallowed dryly and said, "I acknowledge you." The lights flickered, though I hadn't turned any on yet. Inside, the house felt aware. The air was heavy, like the silence before an earthquake. Dust coated every surface. Cobwebs curled along the ceiling like veins. And something else, the smell. Old wood, rust, and beneath that, something sweet and rotting. Each room was as neglected as the last. A living room with broken furniture draped in white sheets. A dining room with a table set for 6, but covered in thick dust. And upstairs, 3 bedrooms. I chose the smallest one. The others felt occupied. The mirrors were the first thing I covered with old sheets. Especially the one in the upstairs hallway. It pulsed in the corner of my eye. Like it breathed, night. One eye followed the rules to the letter. Entered before sunset. Covered every mirror. Didn't check the basement. Locked the barn. I even left a bowl of milk on the kitchen windowsill at midnight. I turned off the lights and lay in bed, staring at the ceiling, counting each creak in the wood. At 2:17 a.m., I heard the mirror in the hallway crack, not shatter. Just a single, sharp crack, like something inside it had twitched. I didn't look. I didn't get up. I pulled the covers over my face and whispered the rules like a prayer, and then I heard footsteps. Slow, measured, bare feet on wood. They stopped outside my door, stayed there for 5 minutes, then turned away. The next morning, I found wet footprints leading away from my door and down the stairs. The mirror had a thin, jagged crack down the middle, like a smile. Friday arrived quicker than expected. I poured a bowl of fresh milk and placed it on the windowsill before dusk. When I came back the next morning, the bowl was empty, bone dry, not spilled, not knocked over, just licked clean. I muttered, "Thank you," and the floor beneath me groaned in reply. The barn. I didn't want to check the barn, but curiosity is a disease. Around noon, I wandered out across the dead grass and opened its large red doors. Sunlight poured in until I stepped inside. Then, darkness swallowed it. The air was thick with the smell of mildew and hay and sulfur. Rows of rusted tools hung on the walls, sides, branding irons, old saws. In the corner, something was scribbled on the barn wall in black ash. "She comes when the rules are broken." I backed out instantly, and when I turned, the farmhouse windows were all reflecting me, even the boarded-up ones. But in every reflection, my head was tilted slightly. I wasn't tilting my head. The basement, I swore I wouldn't go near it. But on the third night, the basement door was open, not cracked, wide open. Darkness poured out like fog. I shut it, locked it, whispered the rules again. And as I walked away, I swear I heard a voice hiss, "You missed one. The broken rule. I don't know which rule I broke. Maybe I didn't say thank you loud enough. Maybe I stayed outside too late. Maybe I left a mirror uncovered by accident." But on the sixth night, something knocked on my door at 3:12 a.m. Slow, deliberate knocks, followed by a whisper, "Let me show you what you forgot." The knocking didn't stop. 3 knocks. Then silence. 3 more. Then silence. It went on for 7 minutes. I sat frozen in bed, blanket pulled up to my chin, staring at the door across the room as if it might fly off its hinges. My heart was beating so hard it felt like my ribs would snap. The digital clock next to me glowed red. 3:21 a.m. I remembered rule number 8. No matter what happens, do not leave the farmhouse between 12 a.m. and 4 a.m. You're safer inside. But now I wasn't so sure, because whatever was knocking, it wasn't trying to come in. It was already inside. The shadow in the hallway. The knocking eventually stopped. But I didn't sleep. I just lay there, listening. I must have dozed off around 5 a.m. because the next thing I remember is the sun rising through the grimy windows. That warm orange glow crawled across the room like a sigh of relief. But when I opened my bedroom door, every mirror in the hallway was uncovered, even the ones I'd taped shut. The sheets had been folded neatly and placed at the end of the hallway, like someone had done housekeeping in the middle of the night. The long hallway mirror across from the stairs had a single black handprint in the center of the glass. Fingers, splayed, thin, long, too long. Desperate measures. That morning, I made coffee just to hold on to something normal. My hands shook so hard I spilled most of it. I needed help. I needed someone, anyone, to explain what the hell was going on. I knew rule number 1. Do not contact the previous owner. But screw that. I dug through the paperwork again. Nothing. No email. No name. Just a burn mark on the last page of the deed, like something had been branded out. But I remembered something odd. The envelope that had the rules, it had a small wax stamp on the seal. It looked like an old family crest. 3 curved lines in a circle, and a tiny set of initials, E.H. I searched the internet for hours, using my laptop connected to a portable hotspot. Nothing came up for the farmhouse address. It was like the property didn't exist. But when I searched E.H. Farmhouse, Montana, I found a Reddit thread posted 7 years ago. Title: Anyone know about the Eldridge house? I stayed there for 2 nights. WTF is this place? The post was deleted, but the comments weren't. U/darkharvest47. Bro, you made it 2 nights? That place is cursed as hell. It's the Eldridge house. People vanish. Locals won't go near it. U/dead speaker. Don't break rule 5. Don't open the barn after sundown. That's where SHE sleeps. U/bleed black. The 8th rule is a lie. That was it. No explanation. Just that chilling sentence. The 8th rule is a lie. Back to the rules. I pulled the rule list back out, now creased and stained with sweat. 8 rules. each one specific, strict. But what if the 8th rule, do not leave the house between 12 a.m. and 4 a.m., wasn't keeping me safe? What if it was keeping me trapped? That night, I decided to test it. Breaking Rule 8, I prepared like a soldier about to enter enemy territory. Flashlight, sage stick, pocket knife, a small wooden cross-eye, found in the living room drawer. Everything about this house felt like it belonged in an exorcist's attic. At 11:59 p.m., I stood by the front door. The air in the house felt pressurized, like the walls were swelling in and out with breath. My hand trembled as I gripped the doorknob. Midnight day. Sharp click echoed through the house. The lights flickered. The mirrors buzzed. The old grandfather clock in the hallway ticked once, then ticked backward. I turned the knob and stepped outside. The outside isn't safer. The moment my foot hit the porch, I knew I had made a mistake. The world outside was not right. The night sky was a deep purple-black shade I'd never seen before, pulsing like bruised skin. The air shimmered slightly, like heat rising off asphalt, even though it was 30 degrees. The farmhouse windows behind me glowed red. I turned to look back and froze, because I saw myself standing in the upstairs bedroom, staring out. Only I was smiling, and my head was tilted again. I stumbled backward off the porch, dropped my flashlight, and watched it flicker out. The darkness rushed in like a scream held too long. Then whispers, low, guttural, coming from the barn. He stepped outside. He broke the lie. Let her wake. Let her rise. The barn doors open. I should have run, but my legs carried me toward the barn like I was being pulled by invisible strings. The doors were already creaking open. A soft crimson glow spilled out like blood on snow. Inside was not the barn I saw earlier. The hay was gone. The tools were gone. In their place was a spiral of bones, arranged perfectly in concentric circles. And in the center of the spiral was a wooden rocking chair. It was rocking. Empty. Then it stopped. Abruptly, and I heard a voice, right behind me, whisper in a voice I'll never forget, "You saw me. Now I see you." I spun around, but there was no one. Only the mirror. A giant, full-length antique mirror leaning against the barn wall. I didn't remember it being there before, and in its reflection, I wasn't alone. Behind me stood a woman in a dirt-covered white dress, her face wrapped in burlap, blood leaking from the stitched mouth. She raised one long, twisted hand and pointed at me. Running back, I ran. I don't remember how I got back to the farmhouse, only that the door slammed shut behind me and every mirror in the house exploded at once, shards flying like shrapnel. I collapsed in the hallway, bleeding from 100 cuts. And then came the worst part. From the cracked mirror on the floor, my reflection began to stand up on its own. It wasn't copying me anymore. It was moving independently. It leaned close to the glass and said in my voice, "You broke the lie. Now we rewrite the rules." When the mirror shard reflection of me whispered, "Now we rewrite the rules," it wasn't a threat. It was a promise, because that night, everything changed. The house wasn't playing by the original rules anymore. Now, it made its own, and it was rewriting them through me. Morning bleeds through. I woke up on the floor, surrounded by broken glass. My body was covered in tiny red cuts. Some still bled, others already crusted over. The farmhouse was quiet, but not the comfortable kind of quiet. The kind you find in a hospital room right after the heart monitor flatlines. My mouth tasted like rust. My hands shook uncontrollably as I crawled to the kitchen, leaving a trail of blood droplets on the warped floorboards. Then I saw it. Taped to the fridge door was a new note, scribbled in a childlike scrawl, but in my own handwriting. I swear I never wrote it. I swear I didn't. But it read, "The new rules. The mirrors are open now. You must speak to them before you sleep. Between 2:44 a.m. and 3:06 a.m., the house will test your identity. You must fail. Do not clean the blood in the attic. It's not yours. Yet, she will knock. Do not let her in unless she uses your dead name. Feed the cellar every other night. It hungers now. The barn is no longer locked. Neither are you. If you hear your own voice calling from the well, do not answer. Forget the old rules. Obey these, or be unmade." I dropped the note like it burned, ran to the bathroom, and vomited into the sink. When I looked up at the cracked mirror, my reflection didn't copy me. It stood still as I moved. Then it smiled, not with lips, but with its eyes. The well that wasn't there yesterday that afternoon because I refused to stay inside longer than necessary. I walked the edge of the overgrown property, hoping fresh air would clear my head. That's when I saw the well. It hadn't been there before. Old stone, moss-covered, rim cracked like broken teeth. No bucket, no rope, just a yawning mouth of black that reeked of wet iron and rot. I backed away from it. But then I heard my voice echo up from its depths. Help, please, it's so dark down here. I'm still down here. I knew it was a trap. It had to be. Rule 7 of the new list warned me. If you hear your own voice calling from the well, do not answer. But I'm only human. And curiosity? That's the most dangerous parasite of all. So I whispered back. Who are you? The voice responded. I'm the you that obeyed. I'm the you that never left the house. And I'm starving. Suddenly, a dozen pale, emaciated arms clawed their way out from inside the well. Fingers reaching, gnarled and broken, some with fingernails still scratching against the stone lip. I ran like hell. The identity test. I made the mistake of falling asleep just before 2:44 a.m. When I woke, everything was wrong. The house looked the same, but something about the light was different, like everything was underwater, glowing from a strange blue source that didn't exist. I turned to the window. Outside, the moon was gone. The stars were replaced with spinning rings of fire. My door creaked open, and I heard footsteps, my own footsteps. Then I heard my voice again. Calm, collected. I'm you, and you don't belong anymore. That's when I remembered rule number 2. Between 2:44 a.m. and 3:06 a.m., the house will test your identity. You must fail. Fail. I didn't understand. But then the other me stepped into the room. It looked exactly like me. Same scars, same shirt, same blood on the jeans, but its eyes were empty, hollow, like 2 deep tunnels with no end. He stepped forward and said, "What's the name of our childhood dog?" My real instinct was to answer, but instead, I stayed quiet, shaking. Then he asked, "What song did Mom sing when she tucked us in?" Again, silenced, he asked a third time, "Who do we miss the most?" And this time, I said something that wasn't true. No one. I miss no one. The doppelganger began to glitch, his face twitching like static, his arms bent the wrong way. Then he screamed, not out loud, but directly into my mind, and vanished. The attic around day 6, I made a mistake. I broke rule number 3. Do not clean the blood in the attic. It's not yours. Yet. But I didn't mean. I just couldn't take the smell anymore. It smelled like wet copper and old milk. The kind of smell that coats your throat. So I went up with a mop and a bottle of bleach. As soon as I touched the first stain, I felt it. Something moved behind the walls. I heard the sound of breathing. Not just one breath. Dozens. Hundreds, like something had just woken up after being asleep for decades. The blood on the floor? It was still warm. It began to bubble, hiss, and crawl toward me. I fell backward down the attic stairs and hit my head on the floor. When I came to, there was a message scrawled in blood on the ceiling above me. Now it's yours. The feeding on the 7th night, I fed the cellar, not because I wanted to, but because I had to. Because if you don't feed it, it starts to whimper, then scream, and then it starts to come up. I left raw meat. Steak, chicken, pork, didn't matter. The moment I dropped it down the wooden trapdoor, I heard the chewing, wet, vicious, starving, and something else, more. The next night, it wasn't satisfied. I left it a rabbit. Then a raccoon I trapped out by the barn. The night after that, I had a dream that I dragged my own body into the cellar, and when I woke up, I had mud on my feet. The knock again around 3:10 a.m. It happened again. The knock point 3 times. But this time, instead of silence, a voice called out, "It's me. Don't you remember? You called me here." I didn't speak. Then it said something that made every hair on my neck stand. "I know your real name. The one you gave up. Should I say it?" I stepped back, clenched my jaw. The voice whispered the name no one should know. The name I changed when I left Denver. "You let your wife die, remember? You ignored the calls. I can be her. Just open the door." I screamed, "Shut up." But the voice didn't stop. "You already fed me once. Might as well make it official. Invite me in." I didn't. Not that night. But the next morning, there was a wedding ring on the windowsill. It was hers. The truth comes knocking. There's one last thing I have to tell you. The original seller? The one who gave me rule number 1. Do not contact me. He didn't disappear. He's buried under the house that I found him. Or what was left of him. Just a pair of legs sticking out from the dirt floor in the basement. Bones chewed to splinters. His chest cavity empty. His hands still clutching a burned-out note that read, "The house is not haunted. It's alive." And above him, scratched into the wall, "We are the rules now. We are the rules now." That line kept echoing in my head like a curse at him. The house had stopped playing its twisted game of warnings and consequences. Now, it was reinventing the rules in real time, through me and for me. Each broken guideline stitched itself into my flesh like an infection. Each mistake fed something growing beneath the floorboards. The truth was obvious now. The rules never protected me. They were rituals, offerings, commands, not to keep evil out, but to keep it in. And now, I was the last wall standing. But that wall was starting to crack. Night 10. The farmhouse becomes flesh. It began with a noise, not footsteps, not knocking, breathing. The house was breathing. The wood creaked in and out in slow, rhythmic pulses. Paint peeled in strange spirals, revealing not plaster underneath, but veins. Yes, veins that I watched the wallpaper curl and split like shedding skin, revealing something. Raw and red beneath. Not construction, not structure. Muscle. The farmhouse was no longer a place. It was a living entity, and I was trapped inside its ribcage. Returned to the cellar, there was no more avoiding it that I had to go down into the cellar. I lit a torch made from an old broom handle, soaked in gasoline. The hatch creaked open with a scream. I swear it came from a human throat. The air down there wasn't air. It was wet, like being inside a lung. I descended the narrow wooden steps, one by one, into complete darkness. That's when I saw them. The previous owners, dozens of them, hung from the beams like forgotten marionettes, each one wearing a blank porcelain mask. Some had arms chewed off. Others had their mouths sewn shut with twine. All of them still breathing, barely, and below them, in the center of the cellar, was a pit that a bottomless hole lined with bone and mirrors. And from that pit, she rose. She emerges first, a hand, long, thin fingers tipped with rusted nails. Then a second. And then she pulled herself up, footless, floating slightly above the floorboards, her tattered white dress dragging behind her like smoke. Her face was wrapped in the same burlap sack, stitched shut with teeth woven into the thread. But it wasn't the sack that scared me. It was what I couldn't see beneath it. She hovered before me, silent, and then I heard it, inside my skull. One must die to finish the ritual. She speaks without speaking. The voice in my head grew louder, sharper, like glass slicing thoughts. You broke the lie. You broke the house. Now you must replace the broken rule. To survive, one must stay behind. One must become the keeper. I backed away. No, I won't do it. She floated closer. Behind her, the marionette. Corpses began to twitch point one by one. They whispered in broken voices, "Join us. Be the rule. Become what feeds her." My torch flickered and then went out. The mirror room, I ran blindly through the cellar until I slammed into something hard. When I opened my eyes, I was no longer underground. I was in a chamber made entirely of mirrors, hundreds of them, floor to ceiling, each showing a different version of me dead, me with no eyes, me strangling myself, me smiling, that same tilted smile. And then I saw one mirror glowing red. Inside it, my wife stood, alive, crying, reaching. "You can bring me back. Trade places. Just let go." I stepped forward, hand trembling, but I didn't touch the glass. I said, "You're not her." And the glass shattered. The voice screamed in rage, and the mirrors began to melt like wax. The final revelation. I stumbled back into the hallway. The farmhouse was melting. Walls twisted, doors bled black oil, and something massive moved behind the drywall like a heartbeat. That I saw a figure nailed to the kitchen ceiling. My own body, twisted upside down like a crucifix. That I was standing below it, looking up at myself, and in my hand was a new note. The final rule: the house must always have a keeper. If the keeper leaves, the house dies. If the house dies, the world splits open. I understood then that I wasn't supposed to survive this place, that I was supposed to replace the last fool who tried. The choice: I had two options: run, leave, let the house die, let whatever she was escape, stay, become the keeper, keep her locked down forever. And the kicker, someone else would find the listing. The trap would reset. It always does, but if I stayed, no one else would suffer. It was the most horrific form of heroism imaginable. And so, I chose option 3. Burn it. Poured every ounce of gasoline I had through the house. The attic, the walls, even the cellar hatch. Then I took out the one match I kept tucked inside my boot, lit it, and said the words out loud. I reject the house. I reject the rules. I choose to end this. And I dropped the match. The fire, the moment flame touched floor, the house screamed. Not wood. Not wind. A real scream. Agonized. Ancient. Furious. SHE rose from every crack and corner. Limbs from vents. Faces from walls. Whispers from the drains. And then, silence. The fire consumed everything. Even her. Even me. But I'm still here, or so. I thought. I woke up lying on dirt. Charred remains of the house behind me. Sun rising over the hills. Free. Until I checked my pocket and found a note. A familiar, crumpled paper. With new rules, the newest rules. Written in blood. You burn the house. But she doesn't die. She waits. The land is hers. You are hers. You never left. Every full moon, you must rebuild one room. Never answer the door after midnight. No one's outside. Don't talk to the birds. They lie. When the well returns, offer blood willingly. Tell no one about this place, or she'll follow them. You are the new rule. Final words. If you're reading this, it means you found the listing again. It's tempting, I know. Cheap land. Big house. Isolated. But let me make this clear. There is no escape once the ink dries. You don't buy the house. It buys you. And when you hear the knocking, when you read the rules, obey. Or better yet, run before she adds your name to the final page. The fire should have ended it. I watched the farmhouse scream as it crumbled, the flames rising into the black Montana sky, like hell reclaiming something that escaped. I should have felt relief. But as I stood there, bleeding, exhausted, my skin scorched from the heat and ash, I only felt one thing: stillness. The kind of stillness that only comes before something terrible wakes up. Because the house wasn't really gone. It was just remembering. Day one after the fire, I set up camp a few hundred yards from the ruins. I couldn't bring myself to leave. I told myself it was shock, that I just needed one night to sleep, clear my head, and then I'd be gone. Drive until the sky looked different. But when I woke the next morning, the ashes were gone. The land where the farmhouse stood wasn't charred. It was just clean, flat, untouched, as if nothing had ever been there. And at the center of it, embedded in the dirt, was a single wooden beam. Upright, blackened, with a nail in it, and a page pinned through the center. The wind didn't touch it. The ink was dry, fresh. It read, "The house remembers everything. So will you." Day 2. The return of the walls. The second day, the grass around the foundation began to by noon. I saw the first post rise from the dirt. Then another. By evening, the outline of the farmhouse had returned in skeletal form. No tools, no workers. Just wood appearing one slat at a time, groaning softly as it arranged itself. That night, I lay in my tent, flashlight shaking in my hand, and listened, hammering, scraping, singing. A woman's voice, drifting over the field in a slow lullaby rhythm. One by one the rules are made. One by one the keepers fade. One by one the house remakes. One by one, it always takes. Day 3. Ghost in the dusty. Tried to leave. I packed my things, started my car, turned the key. Nothing. Battery full. Tank full. Engine dead. So I walked through the fields, toward the road. 10 miles. Then 15. Then 20. But every step brought me back to the same dirt path. Same barbed wire fence. Same half-built house, humming to itself like a sleeping animal. The air was different now. It tasted like metal, like blood and rust. And the shadows weren't waiting until nightfall anymore. They walked in daylight. I saw her again. wrapped in white, head still covered in burlap and wire, standing in the doorway of the house that no longer existed. She turned her head slowly toward me, and I heard her whisper without sound, "Welcome home, keeper." The diary of the HOS. On the 5th day, I stepped into the skeletal remains of the structure. Inside what used to be the living room was a book, sitting in the middle of the floor, bound in leather, thick, hundreds of pages that it wasn't there the night before. The cover was embossed with a single word, "Witness." When I opened it, my heart stopped. Every page was written in my handwriting. Hundreds of entries. Moments from my childhood, my first kiss, the night I lost my job, the night I left my wife to die. Things I had never spoken aloud. Some pages were blank. Others bled ink that never dried. One simply read, "Page 431, you die here." Again, I turned to page 431. There was a drawing of me, nailed upside down in the attic, mouth open in a silent scream. Below it, a sentence written in red, "The house needs memory. Your memory. Stay." Day 6. The true history I thought I understood. The house that I didn't dot on the 6th day. I found the original blueprints buried under the soil beneath where the barn once stood. They were dated 1846 and signed by Esther Halloway. Initials, EH, the name from the wax seal. She wasn't just the builder. She was the first keeper, the one who gave the house its rules, bound it to this land, gave it flesh, and fed it. Her diary, torn and stained, was stuffed inside the blueprints that I in. I read the truth. The land eats grief. The house eats the guilty. The mirrors keep their faces. The rules are not protection. They are contracts. Each broken rule births a new one. Each keeper adds their blood to the frame. We do not own the house. We become it. Day 7. Becoming the house. I don't know how to explain what happened next, that on the 7th night, I saw every version of myself walking through the frame of the half-built house. Some younger, some older, some with burned faces, some dragging their own corpses behind them. Each one locked eyes with me and whispered in unison, "You are the final rule." Then I saw her again. She was no longer floating. She walked, barefoot, leaving black footprints that burned into the wood. She walked up to me, placed a hand on my chest, and said, "Now you remember. Forever." Day 8. Last words to the next fool. If someone finds this journal buried under the beam beside the bone pit, read these last words carefully. The house isn't haunted. It's not possessed. It's not cursed. That it's hungry, and it feeds on us, our regrets, our sins, our memories. That it burns them. It binds them, and once it knows your name, you never leave. Even when you burn it down, even when you run, you just become another whisper in its walls, like me. The final rule. There is one more rule, that it's not written. It's not whispered. It's branded into your soul the moment you see that farmhouse on a listing and think, "Damn, that's a great deal." So, if you're reading this, and you find that listing online, and you think the price is too good to be true, if you see a photo of a decaying house on a field too quiet, and if it comes with a note taped to the door that says, "There are 8 rules to survive," please, I beg you, don't read them. Don't even open the door, because once you do, you are already the next rule, and the house remembers you.